Welcome to Cedar Hill Country Market. Today I'm going to be showing you some home decor that we make here in the shop. And this is going to be a beautiful little Christmas piece we're going to put in our booth that we have at our antique mall that's local to us. And I'm going to do two pieces and I'm going to connect them with some jute string that's like right here. So the first thing we have to do is make sure that whatever wood you're using, if you decide to make this, whatever wood that you use, make sure it's been sanded with a very fine sandpaper, because you just don't want any of the wood pores to be, catch anything where it's not a rough feel. You'll have a lot of bumps and the wood grain will allow some air to get under there and you don't really want that. So the very first thing we're going to do is make sure that's sanded, and then I'm going to coat it with some chalk paint. I'm using Dixie Bells, and they have a YouTube channel too, and they also have a website where you can buy their paint. I really like their chalk paint, so I'm going to be using the white. This is called, let's see if there's a name on it. This is just called Fluff. That's the white version that they have that I really like. It's not a really bright white, but it doesn't have any color in it. So I really like this Fluff. I've used it quite a bit, and I do recommend this chalk paint. I'm using chalk paint because when you're decoupaging, chalk paint marries really well with the Mod Podge and the napkins. And I'm going to be using this napkin today on this board. This one right here, I'm going to put some text on here, but I'm move this out of the way. For now, I'm just going to be working on getting my first coat on this. So without further ado, we're going to get going. I'm going to follow the grain of the wood instead of going across against it. When you're working with paints and wood, you really need to go with the grain of the wood in order to get the paint saturation that you want. So here we go. Okay, so now that we have our first coat of white on here, I'm going to use a blow dryer and I'm going to dry this, and then I'm going to add a layer of Mod Podge or Decoupage glue. Coat. This will allow any places that we missed also to be filled in. Okay, we're heating up our craft iron, but I wanted to show you, this is a 2-ply napkin. And you're going to want to separate the backing of the napkin from the front. And you just want to pull easy, because if you jerk it, it's going to rip the napkin. Okay, so then we're going to discard that piece. And with each napkin, you get 4 different, designs most of the time. And we get most of all of our napkins. I go to NapkinWorld on eBay. The lady that runs NapkinWorld is just phenomenal. She's always looking for things for our store. unique, and I really appreciate all of the stuff that she does for our business. So I'm going to just mention her. I'll leave a link to NapkinWorld's store in the bottom, the description down below. Now, in decoupaging on your edges, they tell you most of the time you don't want a straight edge, but even if I move this design over, I would trim off the edges and it would give me a straight line. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to line it up with this side, and I can sandpaper this off this side, but this side we want it to look like it's a fade into this area over here because I'm going to put some text. So what I want to do is tear this in a way that it doesn't look like a straight line. You can do that in a couple of ways. You can use some vintage trim scissors, and that works sometimes. They always don't cooperate with the napkins, but they do let you get a little head start on the tear. These just are temperamental. Sometimes they work great and sometimes they don't. So, I don't want it to look like it was, you know, on purpose. I really want to make sure that this looks like a fade into the next section of the board. Because you're looking for something artistic. You're not looking for something that looks like it was perfected in a factory. And you want to use a high grade fine sandpaper to sand off your edges. And if you do it properly, you're not going to damage the next napkin. It's just going to come off. Right? So then I have 3 more for 3 other projects. Okay, and I don't like the way this is, so I'm going to tear. And if you're uncomfortable with tearing the napkins, you can get some of these aqua pens. You just fill them with water and you run, it's like a paintbrush, you run it along the edges and then the napkin will just tear off really easily. And I'm just going to make sure that this doesn't look absolutely perfect, that it has a little artistic. I'm wanting it to look more like a painting instead of a decoupage. Okay, I like the way this looks. So we're going to get our craft iron out. And if you don't have a craft iron, you can use your regular iron. I would just absolutely make sure you protect your iron from this, because if you don't, your iron's going to get all gunky. And I highly recommend that you buy a separate iron away from your sewing and quilting to crafting. You'll save yourself a lot of heartache. I learned that the hard way. So, okay, let's see. This is pretty much heated up. And then we're going to take a piece of craft paper. This is some used craft paper. Or you could use wax paper, but I would not really use wax paper. I haven't had a lot of luck with it. And you're really wanting to just press and not do a lot of sliding, because it will tear your napkin. And once this thing, it doesn't get super hot, but once it gets hot enough, it will activate the glue and the napkin will stick down. And I'm just pressing, making sure all my edges are activated. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put our Mod Podge on top of this. And then we'll let it dry. And I like using the blow dryer with Mod Podge just because the bubbles don't happen as much. It doesn't tend to bubble up on you. All right, that's the craft iron. And so just to give you a view, so we're going to put text over here, and we may even do a little bit of a background. I haven't decided. I've done some like these, and they have a little string so they can hang. And this is also decoupaged napkin. And then I'm going to do a little background and then put some text over here. This makes really cute little home decor. I've done the circle ones. As you can tell, I've done some stamping in the background here. And these would go together. And these are for sale on our website. You can check our website out at cedarhillcountrymarket.com. And you can purchase these. They come with some jute, connecting them like this, so it's like a plate hanger, and they're very economical. Great Christmas gifts. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to Mod Podge the top of this. And get that ready. Make sure you clean off your brush from the last time. And you want to start in the middle and work your way out. So you'll have less bubbles that way. And you don't want to press hard, you're just lightly pressing. If you press really hard, you're going to rip your napkin, because once this napkin, one little layer gets wet, it wants to give way, even with it being heated down or, you know, heat applied. And lefties don't like to use right hands, but I'm going to try to do this way. This will give you some great ideas for Christmas gifts. YouTube is full of videos on decoupage if you want to get into that. But if you're not crafty, we do sell all these different items for your home. Make sure I get all my edges. All right, we're going to dry this really quick. Okay, no bubbles at all. Completely smooth. Okay, so this one we're going to go ahead and paint because we're going to attach it to this right here. And I'm going to be using another Dixie Belle chalk paint. And this one is called Moss, Spanish Moss. And it'll blend really well with the greens going on in this little napkin. So we'll do this real quick, and then we'll wrap up the video. I'll also show you a project more that I've got the bottom part of this painted, And I think this might work really well. I'm going to try this. And this says farmhouse on it. And then the text up here could be our country or our family farmhouse. So I'm going to tie this word into my text up here. So this little stencil, I think I got this at Hobby Lobby. And I'm going to go ahead and get it securely taped on here, and then I'm going to stencil this in. And for this, I'll use acrylic paints, not the, I want to make sure that it's straight, it's not crooked. Because you don't want the stencil to move while you're stenciling. And I'm just using painter's tape. And I have these little sponges that I got. They come with removable, washable little stampies. I sometimes use those. Sometimes I use the sponges. To do my stenciling. Sometimes I use a stencil brush. I do have a stencil brush. This one right here. I can use this stencil. What you don't want to happen is the paint to get up under there and make it sort of blurry. And if you have a vinyl cutter, you could just absolutely do this in vinyl. You could just type out farmhouse and then cut it if you want. And these are some distressed inks I'm going to probably use on here. All right, so let me, you don't want to paint this with a paintbrush. You want to stencil it. So I'm going to get a little paper plate here and get some paint. Probably just going to use this Americana. I was debating on whether or not to use a gold or not a gold. I haven't really, but I could probably stamp it out and get it distressed looking once it dries. So blending and technique are just, you know, really important when you're doing stencil. And I'm not a professional stenciler by any stretch of the imagination. I do a little bit. You could blend this with another color, just a lighter color than the green that I'm using. But I really want this to pop out and look visibly, you know, pleasing. So let's go ahead and I'm going to do straight down pops on this so that I don't get underneath the stencil. And you don't want your stencil to move, which mine's moving. Don't know why. Hopefully it'll be okay. Maybe I'll do shorter pops. And remember, if you mess up, don't worry. You can always just repaint another coat on top of your board and you can start over. So what I love about painting is it's pretty mistake proof. You don't have to worry if it looks awful, you just redo it, you know. So, and the best thing to get paint off your fingers is baby wipes or wet ones. Your paint comes right off. It also works on stencils pretty well. So, all right, let's lift our stencil and see how we did. Pretty good. And if you wanted perfection, you could go in here with a paintbrush and really make this, you know, look like it came out of a factory. I really want the rustic sort of feel to this, so I really don't want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and dry this off. And so we can move on to the next phase and finish. All right, now I want to do a little bit of antiquing. I'm going to use some distressed inks. This is Distress Oxide, and it's supposed to make things look really vintage. And I brought out the blue one just because there's a lot of blues in here, and I want to really highlight that. So I'm just going to start on the edges and see if I can get the worn look on here. I want it to look like it's been around a while. And for those that want to know the size wood everything is, you don't need a specific size. This is spare wood from my husband's wood shop. So they're all different sizes, really. Okay, I'm going to put that to the side, and I'm going to go ahead and do this stressing on the edge of the top one too. I really just want to give this, you know, an aged feel. And with stamping, you can blend, you know, you can do a lot of blending with the stamp as opposed to, I feel like I have more control than the paint, but that's kind of up to the person doing it, really. Okay, good. See? That looks really good. And it really looks like maybe it wasn't brand new. I like that. Okay, and so then we're going to change our sponge heads here. I can wash that one, put a new one on. And then this one is called Speckled Egg, and it's just a blue. I don't want to get a lot of it on here because this is kind of powerful. You can fade it out pretty well, but it just, you want to make sure you don't really get, you know, when you're pouncing it, you don't get a lot of it. I just want some blue hues to make this thing look like, you know, it's same for this one. I want to bring in the blue with this. And against this green, it's going to be hard, but it will work. Okay, our little project is coming along. We also have I have pink, orange, yellows, and a really more turquoise blue here. I could probably do some more pouncing and, you know, bring out a little bit more. But I always find that if you fool with it too much, you can always put more, but you can't take back. So it's really important that, you know, you don't add so much. All right. I like the way this is ended. What I'm going to do to finish this off is I'm going to paint the edges of the upper block. I don't usually paint the backs. I leave them open. Unpainted. It just lets people know what this really is. It's not resin or something cheap. It's actually wood. So I leave that there. I may touch up some of the farmhouse text here. And I'm going to go ahead and get my text done. And okay, I'll bring you back for putting that on real quick. And then we'll call it done. 2 sections on. I'm going to put this last welcome text on here. Just trying to make sure that the glue is activated so the letters you know, won't stick. So I'm just really trying to work in the text so I can lift this without the text coming up. The vinyl has adhesive on it and this board has adhesive on it, but you really have to, you know, get the heat activated in order for the letters to stick. There we go. So I wanted it to look like someone just, you know, took a pen and wrote on here. So, all right, all we have to do is build our string that goes along the back, and I've cut a piece and making sure all my letters are good and down. You can also decoupage, which I probably will do, the letters so that they don't come up. If this was to be put out on a porch or something, you wouldn't want that. And I don't have my husband's staple gun, but I'm going to go ahead and glue this in place. And then he'll come back and put staples in here to adhere it to make sure that it's good and tight. I'm just going to try to put this in the middle. I'm going to take our hot glue gun and we'll make some beads here. So he'll know where I want the staples. And then we'll put this under here. And then we'll have these just hanging off because a lot of people like to add like little bells or whatever during the holidays. And I want to leave that opportunity for somebody to have this, you know, hanging down. All right, here is our finished sign for everybody to see. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll shop our website at cedarhillcountrymarket.com, where you'll find home decor and items just like this, among many others. Everybody have a blessed day, and remember, find somebody to bless.